Hey guys, welcome back. So this time today we're doing, I did like a teaser for Prey, but today we're doing the whole kit and caboodle. And okay, can we just for a moment like appreciate how beautiful these freaking covers are? And Hannah designed these herself. And like also there's a lot of symbolism that I totally missed. But Hannah is gracious enough she attends her own book talks on her Facebook group, which is Blackwater Pack. So if you haven't joined, definitely join. And she actually talked about the symbolism in the book. And she answers what questions she can that Vanessa lets her answer. But just look at it. It's so thick and pretty and juicy. And okay. So, like, I know some people, sorry, I'm getting really excited. I'm like, you guys. So, like, here is one thing that I love because, as you can see, like, I have a few books, okay? And when it's been a few years since you've read them, you don't remember which order they go in. So, it's really nice when they have the number on the spine. And has pre-spine. But Hannah's has the number on the spine. And I freaking love that. Like, thank you, Hannah. Because it makes life so much easier 5 years from now when I want to reread these. And I can be like, oh, this was book 2. So, y'all, oh, God, sorry. I really love this book. Okay, so Hannah was nice enough to give me an ARC. So I had kind of read it before it officially came out. And I loved it, of course. And so here's the thing. Nothing that I thought was going to happen is what happened. And that's like the best thing ever, right? Because when you read a lot of books or when you watch a lot of shows, because I have friends that like they watch a ton of shows and within the first 5 minutes of watching something, this is what's going to happen, and those two are going to get together, and blah, blah, blah. They have the whole plot of the show figured out, in 5 minutes. And, as a reader, you don't want that, right? Because then it takes all the excitement and the joy out of it. You ain't going to have that problem with this book, because none of the things you thought was going to happen is what's going to happen. Right, because nothing I thought was going to happen is what's going to happen. I tell you, we get done, I tell you what I thought was going to happen none of that happened. I mean, some of it kind of happened. You'll see. Okay, so, obviously, if you can't tell by my level of excitement, it's a 5-star. Hannah is freaking amazing because, it's one thing to enjoy a book, but it is another thing to, like, get the feels. You know what I'm saying? If you have gotten the feels reading a book, you know what I'm talking about. And, like, I literally just finished the reread because I wanted to, because I couldn't stop thinking about Sky and Remy. Don't judge me. But, like, even on the reread, I was, like, friggin' crying in the same spots I was crying the first time through. So, this is one of those books that's, like, gonna stick with you. So, okay, 5 stars. We get a good recap of things that have happened so far. There's, like, some political intrigue. We still have the females disappearing, and that kind of gets solved. Like, it doesn't blatantly get solved. That's another thing I love about Hannah, that it's not like in your face. It's like, this is what somebody thinks happened, but there's no like concrete proof that this is what happened. So like your mind is still like, ooh, which much to my dismay, because I really like this character and I thought that he was a kindly old man, and now my feelings are hurt, Hannah. So, Remy and Sky get very much so closer. Like, get your fan closer. All right. There's, like, so many quotes. There's more shadows and intrigue, and I don't really know what to say. We see, this whole series, I say this whole series like it's freaking 10 books long. This whole time we have watched Sky grow so much, which is one of the things that I love about this book, is that we have so much character growth, not just from Sky, but from Remy, from Larkin. There's just, oh, it's just juicy, all the character growth. Okay, but we get, like, Sky hits another level. You know what I'm saying? The things that you want, you get. Yes. We get Sky, like, kind of coming into her own and telling people things that she needs to tell them. She kind of faces her demons. She starts to own her own body and her own sexuality. We get a lot of new characters. We get more insight into the shifter world. And Sky learns things the hard way. They know why I'm doing that. There's new developments in the bond. So the bond continues to evolve. So then we have growth of the bond too. We see Sky just... I love Sky so much. She's like totally one of my girl crushes. We see Sky kind of come into being an alpha kind of all of her own. We find out more about her parents. And we get an epilogue and a bonus scene. And let me tell you, that epilogue will have you shooketh. Okay? You will be shooketh after the epilogue. And the bonus scene is Larkin and Rhodes. Okay. So that's the spoiler-free review. Go read it. Now it's time for the spoilers. Spoilers. Alright. Walkthrough. So we open up with Remy training Sky how to fight. And let me tell you, so this little tidbit was tacked on to the end of, was it the end of Broken 1.5, the novella? And like, the way they're talking, you think some things are going down, but they are not going down because Hannah is a tease. He's training her how to fight. At the, Sky says she didn't realize she was signing up for the Remington Holt Boot Camp Extreme Shifter Edition. And I agree with Vanetta that 110% needs to be on the shirt whenever they decide to do merchandise, because I want a Remington Holt Boot Camp shirt. I do. I want one. They start making out, and then Rhodes shows up. Yeah. And he's like picking at him, and it's like the cutest thing ever. Like, I love all the relationships in this book, y'all. Okay. So then we get like a nice recap of the ending of Sanctum. Rhodes calls Sky Skywalker, and I love it because it's a Star Wars reference, and I like Star Wars. We find out that half, or maybe half, I'm not sure, a lot of packs have left Granite Peak Academy, GPA, the school that they all go to, because they're siding with Norwood. So there's like kind of this, war between Blackwater and Brooks Ridge, which are their allies, and a few smaller packs that are also their allies, and Norwood and Norwood's allies. So the two major players are Blackwater and Norwood. So Sky kind of explains the lack of sexy times with Remy because, you know, that's the thing, y'all. I'm thirsty too, okay? I'm thirsty right along with the rest of y'all, okay? But Sky been through some things, and she needs a moment, okay? She's trying to deal with, the girl was traumatized for 17 years. You know what I'm saying? And you don't even realize how bad, like, Sanctum made me freaking cry, and I wanted to kill all those people. And then when you actually get to Sky's testimony in this book, Aces is going to love this because she likes when I say it, but I literally, legit, I wanted Danny to show up on Drogon and go all Dracarys on everybody. They all die. Everybody. Remy is being really patient with her and kind of, you know, like Remy's never going to pressure her or push her, or because he doesn't know everything she's been through, but he knows she's been through something and he wants her to be able to move at her own pace. And this is a quote from Sky. Y'all, there's so many quotes in this that I loved it. Like, my Kindle is really highlighted. So here's a quote from Sky. If my heart was a compass, Remy Holt was my true north. Oh. And we find out, we get like more descriptions of the characters. And so we find out Remy has dark hair and dark eyes, which, yes, please. At the cafeteria, the Blackwater Pack and Brooks Ridge Pack are discussing the summit and the issues with Norwood and their kind of archaic patriarchal rules. And Sky tells them how females were forced into breeding and bearing children in Long Mesa. There's a girl that comes running in screaming, saying she's gone, so another shifter has disappeared. So everybody kind of looks to Remy, because even though Remy is the alpha of Blackwater, he's still I feel like he's kind of like the alpha of the school, right? Because everybody turns and looks to him. So he like takes control of the situation, and he orders search parties, and he tells all the females to stay in the cafeteria. And Sky, goes along with it because this is what's safest for everybody. Ainsley, y'all. So Ainsley is telling Sky, she's like, the natives are getting restless. Like, you're going to need to do something. And Sky's like, huh? What? Like, she's not getting it. And Ainsley's like, girl, your boyfriend the alpha, that makes you the female of the alpha. To me, Sky is the alpha in her own right, okay? She just is. There's all these little hints throughout the books, that she looks people in the eye, that she doesn't back down, that she protects other people. So anyway, so Sky steps up and's like, everybody clean dishes. And a lot of people are grumbling because, as Hannah explained it, girls are precious in the shifter world. There's one girl to every 4 boys. So a lot of the girls are pampered, and so they've never had to clean dishes. And so it's but she's doing it to keep them busy, right? To help the anxiety and keep the grumbling to a minimum, just keep them busy. So about the time they get done, the boys get back, and Remy decides to keep all their females, the Blackwater Pack females, in the alpha cabin to keep them safe. And then when they get everybody packed and back to the cabin, Remy is on the phone with Gabe. I'm kind of ashamed of myself, because under Gabe's name I wrote Yum. Gabe is hot to me, y'all, and I know he's wifed up, but he's still hot. Okay, so Gabe tells Remy that they're sending more guards to the school. And Remy tells Sky that they're going to go on lockdown. And Remy decides no females go anywhere unescorted, which makes sense, right? Because somebody is freaking taking females on school property at this point. The next morning, Sky is watching Remy sleep, rubbing his abs. I got so excited, I forgot to open my cup. And then she looks up, and his eyes are open, and he's looking at her. And so she's kind of like freaks out a little bit because she just got caught like fondling her boyfriend. And he goes, "You can touch me," and she does. And I was like, "Yes, girl, yes, get it, Sky." Okay. So she does the things with touching him, and then he does the things with touching her. I have my fan finally come to save me from the hot flashes that these boys cause. Then Scott has like, I feel so bad because they're having this moment and it's really sexy, and then Sky has this flashback, and she flashes back to like Cassian holding her on the ground and like grinding on her and like molesting her, and Preston Preston took a knife and went to cut a P in her hip, but somebody came out the door and the knife slipped and made it an R. Because she was always meant to be with Remy. I wrote, and I'm crying, which is not a surprise to anybody. So Sky yells stop in the middle of sexy times, and not full on, you know what I mean, messing around times. and scuttles off the bed to the wall. Remy talks to her. Then Rhodes is banging on the door because classes start soon. Sky doesn't tell Remy because she's embarrassed, even though, come on now, we all know Remy would be totally cool, but like, I get it, right? Like, who would want to be like, oh, sorry I freaked out while we were having a very intimate couple moment. Let me tell you about the time I got molested by 3 boys against my will. So, the girls, you know, Katie and Larkin and, Tate kind of corner her and it's like, what's going on? And she tells them what happened. And she's like, you know, Remy stuck with me and I feel so bad because he got such a damaged mate. I mean, just this horrible self-talk. And I mean, hello, most of us has been there. And Larkin is the one who gets through. Oh, Lord. Ugh. Because she says, if the situation were reversed, would it change how you felt about him? And Sky says, and this is a quote from Sky, nothing would ever make me love him any less. He's mine. And I'm like, yeah, girl, yes. And Katie and Tate also talked to her about seeing a counselor. And I'm like, yes, please. Somebody take this child to see a counselor because she needs it. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't? So Remy is waiting to walk her back when they get out of class. They talk, kind of. It's not really going well. Like, Sky she's trying to say it, but she can't express herself that well. Been there. She's finally able to get the words out, and Remy responds perfectly. This is a quote from Remy. This is a quote from Sky about Remy. The concern and understanding in his expression was both healing and destroying me. She says she feels bad that he stuck with her, and he says, oh gosh, this is a quote from Remy. I'm not stuck with you, Sky. Even without the bond, I choose you. I love you. And then they make out until lunch is up, and they have to go back. And I'm like, yay, they made up, but boo, they have to go to class. Boo. So, at the end of the week, Katie throws a welcome home party for Marin, her girlfriend. All right, so y'all remember, Marin belongs to the Brooks Ridge Pack, which is in Alaska. Sky and Katie and Remy belong to, right? Yes. Sky and Katie and Remy belong to Blackwater, which is in Washington. Marin's grandmother or somebody was not well or had passed away. Something happened, some sort of family emergency. So Marin stayed behind when everybody else went back to school to see her family. Marin's on her way back. So they're having this party. They're waiting for Marin to show up from the airport. Katie and Ainsley are teaching Sky how to dance because the girl's never been able to dance. Then Remy is behind her dancing and teasing her, and she's like, we need to go now. We need to go now. And when they get ready to leave, there's the teacher in the door. And the teacher says that Marin's car, or the SUV picking Marin up from the airport, slid off the road. And the driver's dead, and they can't find Marin. And that they have to send out search parties. Y'all. So they form up teams and send out scouts. And Remy and Will and Rhodes and Sky and Katie are a team. And they drive. And when they get there, the cops are there. And they offer to help, but they get shut down. Then Sky and Larkin and Remy all have to argue with Katie because Katie is ready to freaking climb out the window of the SUV. And now, you know, I think they're in Michigan or Montana. They're in somewhere that, like, during the winter gets a lot of snow. So there's a lot of snow on the ground. So it's not like it's the perfect weather to be going searching for Marin, right? The weather's bad. And they're arguing with Katie. Katie, Larkin, and Sky end up sleeping in Sky's room because they basically just hold her down until she exhausts herself and falls asleep. The next morning, Sky goes downstairs to find Remy and Rose. Rose heads for the shower, and Remy holds on to Sky, like, just to kind of comfort. It's like, because they're bonded, right? They're bonded wolves. And so just touching each other is a comfort for them whenever they're anxious or stressed or whatever. They still haven't found Marin. And I wrote, I'm pretty sure the shadow people took her. Because we don't know who's taking them, so I'm just calling them the shadow people. The shadow people took Marin. Remy and Sky discuss the search parties and how Katie can't participate because she'll be too reckless. Because there's cops out searching, there's highway patrol out searching, those people have guns, probably shouldn't be running around in wolf form. Just saying. So Katie comes down and Remy tries to talk to her, but she won't listen. So he gives her an alpha command and she is furious. Okay? She is furious. I know it's furious. I know, but I like saying furious. She's very furious. And my heart is just kind of breaking for them at this point, right? Because Remy loves Katie. That's his sister. But he's not willing to risk his sister's life to find Marin, right? He's like, I feel bad about Marin. I care about Marin, but that's my sister, and I'm not willing to risk her or any member of my pack to go find this other person. You know, it's like that one to save the many or whatever. At the same time, Katie kind of has some valid points of if the situation were reversed, Remy would go through hell and high water to find Sky. And she, you know, a lot of people, when they're upset, they lash out at the people close to them who love them the most because those people will not push them away. And so Katie says some pretty nasty things to Sky to get at Remy, right? Because she's so mad. And it's kind of, she says some things that are kind of a low blow. The next day at lunch, Larkin tells Sky that Katie feels terrible about what she said. Sky says she doesn't hate her because, you know, Larkin's like, you know, are you mad? Do you hate her? And Sky's like, no, I don't hate her. Sky goes to see her. Katie apologizes, is like boo-hooing and sobbing, and launches herself at Sky, and they hug, and they talk, and they make up, and I'm just like, yay, you guys. Then Remy calls, another girl has gone missing, because the shadow people took somebody else. Will comes to meet them after class and takes Sky and Katie to the cabin. Kyle and Connor, the twins that Larkin was dating, if you remember, from Broken, the rest of the females to the cabin. Kyle and Connor take the rest of the females to the cabin. Sky tells Will and the other guys to help search for this missing girl while the freshman males of Blackwater Pack stay in the cabin and protect the women. Katie puts it together that Marin has been taken by the same people who've been taking these other girls. And when Remy returns, it's with news that school is closing. Because at this point, it's too dangerous, right? Because this is basically, it's just like one-stop shop for the freaking shadow people to steal girls. So everybody's going back to their packs. Katie's like, no, I'm not leaving. You know, what if Marin comes back? And she and Remy are arguing again. And like it sucks, right? And it makes you uncomfortable. And that is, to me, another sign of this great writing, that it's realistic, and that it's so realistic that it makes you uncomfortable because you feel like you're this voyeur in this very private family moment of this brother and sister arguing. I love this book. So, Sky goes to talk to Remy to kind of, you know, soothe his nerves because she knows it's just as hard on him as it is on Katie. And he tells her that he's sorry he couldn't keep her safe. Aww. And this is a quote from Sky. These quotes, y'all. She says, safe isn't a place, Remy. It's not this school or in Blackwater or any other place. Safe as you. He goes to talk to Katie, but comes back because Katie is gone. She has made a run for it. And I wrote, oh, geez, this is no bueno. Because we know what happens when people run off in these books. Remy and Sky go after Katie. They find her, but she's not alone. Dun, dun, dun. There's two men with guns trained on her. Remy goes for one. Sky goes for the other. Remy has his guy down. Sky and Katie are working on the other guy. And they get the gun, but he has a pistol on his thigh. And he points it at Sky and Katie. Remy gets between them to defend Sky and Katie. The guy runs for a snowmobile and leaves, the one guy. Remy's guy is alive, but pulls a pistol from his thigh. Says he's sorry that they didn't have a choice. And then he shoots himself. Yes. Do you see now why I call them the shadow people? Because this mess is like, it's wild. Okay. Like the Bourne Identity and meets Twilight and like with something else, like some Game of Thrones or something in between. So back at the cabin, Remy and Katie video call their parents, who are mad. They big mad. Remy and Sky are in his room talking. He's putting the others on a plane and hanging back to figure out who was after them. And like, you know, then they start making out and it's really hot. And here's a quote from Sky. He used the kiss to claim, but there was nothing left to conquer. Every piece of me belonged to Remy. And then Remy does the things with his hands. And he's very talented with his hands. Yes. So the next day, everybody but Remy flies home. Gabe and the pack meet them at the airport. And in the SUV on the way back, Gabe tells Sky that the bond with her and Remy is like the bond on steroids. He's like, this is not like a bond I have ever seen. That normally it takes years to be able to communicate through the bond. At her mom's apartment, Bella and Zara are there. Sky and Bella talk about what happened to Bella. Bella says she wishes things could go back to how they were. Yeah. And Sky kind of goes off on her. She's not like yelling or ugly, but she just tells her that, you know, they had very different experiences at Long Mesa and that she in no way, shape, or form wishes things could go back to how they were. But Bella doesn't get it and just continues kind of the woe is me, which is understandable, right? Because Bella has been brutally raped by a boy that was supposed to be her husband and her mate and protect her and his friends, which, ugh. And then on top of that, her dad, who was supposed to care for her and protect her, acted like nothing happened, told her to go upstairs and clean herself up. So, I mean, it's kind of understandable that Bella is kind of, you know, stuck in her trauma, right? But Sky lets her hold it. And I wrote, go off, sis. Because, I mean, it kind of does need to be said. And her mom and Zara are at the door and overhear her. And Sky's like, I'm going for a run because I need to, you know, let off some steam. And when she comes back, Bella and Zara are gone. But Sky couldn't sleep. So when her mom leaves for work, she tries to go back to sleep. She's basically like toss and turn because at school she slept with Remy every night. And they're bonded. And so he's not there and she can't sleep. So when her mom leaves to go to work, she's trying to go back to sleep. And then Remy surprises her. And they talk. And I wrote, Remy is seriously the perfect guy. Because he is. The next morning, Sky's mom wants to make her breakfast before school because she never got to in Long Mesa. Oh, like she never got to like make her daughter this nice big breakfast before her first day of school. And so she wants to have that moment with Sky. And it's just so precious. And of course, I was crying again. Then Remy shows up. Sky's mom invited him to come have breakfast with them. And I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. And then Sky's mom and Remy are kind of joking and talking. And Sky gets jealous. Like her wolf gets jealous. And so she has to excuse herself. And she goes to her room to get a grip. Her mom knocks on the door and Sky apologizes. Then her mom apologizes. Oh, God, y'all. Her mom thinks that Sky is freaking out because it's her first day of school and she's thinking about Long Mesa. And, of course, I was crying again. Her mom blames herself for everything that Sky went through. And Sky was like, Mom, I don't blame you. And her mom's like, yeah, but I do. And then Remy, oh, God, y'all, this moment. Then Remy says the most perfect thing to Addie, which is her mom. He says, Addie, you were a victim too. And while Sky had Addie had nobody looking out for her. And this is a quote from Remy. Thank you for saving Sky. You saved my mate. And that's a debt I'll never be able to repay. And I know Hannah is going to be like, oh my God, Kim. But it's just like, oh, Remy, he's so perfect. And I'm crying again, and I am crying again for the third time. Okay. Then Sky and her mom hug and they cry, and Remy waits outside to let them have a moment because he's freaking perfect. Sky starts working at the diner with her mom, and everything is going good, and she's like having this normal life. Oh my gosh, seriously? Remy and Gabe are like prepping for the summit, and then Sky and her mom go to the Alpha House for dinner. Remy and Sky are like smooching on the front porch, and Katie kind of interrupts them, and Remy goes inside, and Katie and Sky are talking. Katie says there's time when she almost forgets and she feels guilty, and God, isn't that's what I love. That's another okay, I love like everything about this book, but that's another thing that I love about this book is because that is reality, right? When we lose somebody, regardless of how we lost them, right? Because Marin may still be alive, we don't know, but it's still a loss for Katie. And so you have that guilt kind of when you start to enjoy life after that loss. So they're hugging and holding hands, and then Sam's like, you need to come inside. And I wrote, oh geez, because it's always something, right? So when they go in, Gabe tells them that Sky's uncle has filed a formal complaint against the Blackwater Pack, claiming that the Blackwater Pack stole Sky, Addie, Bella, and Zara, and he wants them returned to Long Mesa. Yeah. Oh, God. Ugh. Somebody has to go and be a witness to everything that happened in Long Mesa, and Gabe and Remy tell them that they've been watching Long Mesa, that they're allied with Norwood, so they think that Long Mesa has something to do with the missing shifters. Katie loses it, tells Gabe to demand the Norwood Alpha to give Marin back. He's like, it's not that simple because we don't have any proof. And Katie is going off, knocks over a wine glass, and Gabe sends her to her room. I mean, I have done worse in showing my hind parts, and I have got worse for showing my hind parts. So getting sent to your room is, kind of, it's not that bad. Sky speaks up and says that she should go as the witness, that because since she's bonded to Remy, they can't separate them. And that Remy's claim to her overrides the claim of Long Mesa. Remy and her mom don't want her to go. They're like, no, absolutely not, because it's too dangerous. But Sky wants to do it for her, for her mom and for Bella and for Zara. And of course I'm crying again because it was just like so sweet, because she's like, no, you did so much for me, let me do this for you. Sky's mom goes to stay with Zara, and Sky carries a plate upstairs to Katie's room, and Katie and Sky talk, and it's beautiful. Sky is packing for the summit because she's going to go with Gabe and Remy so she can testify, and her mom are talking, and Sky asks about her dad. And her mom says, you deserve to know, but can we talk about it when you get back? Then Zara and Bella show up to say goodbye. Zara apologizes to Sky, says they should have gotten her out sooner. And this is a quote from Sky. I'm glad you didn't. I hate what each of us went through, what Maisie and Shane died for. But all of that brought me here. I found friends and a family and my mate. I would take a lifetime of Lyndon and Cassian if Remy was waiting for me at the end. Ooh. So Bella comes in and they apologize and kind of hug it out. Bella thanks her for testifying. Then Bella tells her that that she misses him. She misses the father that he used to be. And I wrote, y'all, that is so real and such a real human experience. Because, even though Sky was freaking tortured, Bella was very much Daddy's girl up until the point that he left her bleeding on the floor and told her to go clean herself up. And so it's natural that she would grieve that, right? Because that's still a loss. Because even though he's still alive, the father that she thought she knew is dead. Bella even blames herself for believing her dad over her mom. And I'm just like, oh, Bella. Bella asks how she can move on. She's like, Sky, how did you do it? How do I move on? Like, you moved on. How do I move on? And Sky tells her, I had help. I had friends. I had a pack. And she's like, now you have those things. So they're on the plane. They're picking up some members from Brooks Ridge Pack, which is Tate. We love Tate because Tate's part of the throuple, okay? It's Tate, Dante, and Ryder are the throuple. And her dad, Luke, which I have to share with Rachel, but is my future husband's, and I will be Tate's stepmama. Yep. So Luke, they're alpha, and Gabe asks about Preston, who's now the heir to Long Mesa, because, it was Cassian, but Cassian's dead. Is he? We don't know because we haven't seen a body. And, I don't know if Game of Thrones just permanently traumatized me or what, but it's like if I don't see a body missing a head, because even if the head's still on, they can still come back as White Walkers, then I don't believe they're dead. So, anyway, since Cassian is dead, Preston is now the heir to Long Mesa, will be the future alpha. So, Sky tells him that she killed Preston's brother and his best friend. Because Luke's like, tell me what you know about Preston. And so she's like, well, I killed his brother and his best friend. So when they land and they get to the resort, Luke asks Sky and Tate to stay in the room while Luke and Gabe go meet with some allies, and they set up a guard schedule for the girls. And they're kind of like, oh, really? We gotta have babysitters? Yeah, you gotta have babysitters. Because freaking shadow people are taking shifter females. So, yeah. When they go to check in, Sky sees Elias, and he introduces Daniel, who is a lone wolf, the last member of his pack. There's a little kind of standoff because he says he's from Arizona, but he quickly clarifies that he's not with Lyndon, and that he hates Lyndon. So there's an alpha that Gabe and Remy and Luke want to talk to try and, get as an ally. But they also need to take Tate and Sky to get settled into the cabin. So Daniel and Elias are like, oh, we'll take them to the cabin. And so Sky agrees. And on the way, y'all, Sky runs into her uncle. Yeah, Lyndon. Yeah, that one. Yep. The psycho. Daniel and Elias try to diffuse the situation and tell Lyndon and Preston that they're escorting the girls to their cabin. But Lyndon shushes him, and Sky stands up to Lyndon and to Preston. Preston starts, but Lyndon cuts him off because, hello, there's witnesses. You know what I'm saying? Lyndon's not stupid. He might be a psycho, but he's not stupid. Most psychos aren't. And so anyway, they go to check in. Daniel and Elias are walking the girls to the cabin. On the way, Daniel talks to Sky about Lyndon. He tells her that he's heard things. And he's like, I thought they were just stories, but they weren't, were they? And this is a quote from, it's a thought from Sky. Oh. Yeah. Says, it wasn't my job to feel guilty for their actions. It wasn't my responsibility to carry their dirty secrets. Yes, girl. Yes. Because that's on them. What they did is on them and is not on you. You know what I'm saying? So later, Sky and Tate are watching TV, and Remy comes in. Everybody leaves to give them some private time. Because Remy is mad. He big mad because Sky texted him and said, oh, we're back at the room, and didn't say nothing about running into Lyndon and Preston. So Luke, after they kind of talk or whatever, Luke is asking her if she liked having all that attention, and he's like, no. And she's saying no should be enough, but it was just, Luke was just testing her, because he's like, they're going to ask you these kind of questions and worse, and we need to make sure that you're not going to, wolf out on anybody. So they leave. Gabe goes for a run, and it's just Remy and Sky all alone in a sexy cabin in Wyoming. Yeah. So they head upstairs, and then Remy literally worships Sky, and I am here for it. Remy does all the things with his hands, and reaches for the button of his jeans. And I wrote, yes, yes, more please. And then looks at the clock and says he got to go to a meeting. And I wrote, no, Hannah, you tease. I don't know if you can read it, but that's what I wrote. So they head for the shower, and Sky washes his hair, and then she does things with her hand, and it is hot. It is very hot. And then she does things with her mouth, and it is very hot. And I'm like, get it, girl, get it. So they shower, Remy dries her off, and when they get downstairs, Gabe talks to them about filing a grievance with the council on behalf of Sky, her mom, Bella, and Zara. She would have to give a detailed account in front of Gabe and Remy, and so she's kind of like freaking out about it, but then she thinks about what Lyndon would do if he gets them back and what he's probably already doing to other people, and so she decides to do it. And then I was crying again because, all right, I'm crying again because look at our brave girl, because she's so brave. Okay. The next day, Remy and Dante take the girls to the gallery to watch the opening session, and Daniel shows up and sits with them. The Alpha Calvin from the Northern Appalachian thing files the dispute, because they, kind of give like an open ceremony, and then they're like, does anybody have any disputes? And this guy does. He says, I have a problem with Norwood harassing my northern border. And Damien, the Alpha from Norwood's like, oh, well, we'll be glad if you can't protect your borders, we'll be glad to take your pack. Like, really, dude? Then Lyndon files the grievance for Blackwater kidnapping his family. Yeah, okay, Lyndon. So the council is basically like a show to show who has the most power. Then Gabe stands up to answer Lyndon's accusations and tells him that Addie and Sky and Bella and Zara sought sanctuary, that they didn't steal anybody. Lyndon requests custody of Sky until the council investigates, and the chair is like literally about to agree when Remy stands up and says, no, that Blackwater has a stronger claim than Long Mesa, and tells him that Sky is his mate. And there's this huge commotion because of their age, right? They've been dealing with this ever since they came out that they were bonded. So the council asks Remy how old he is, and they're like, most people don't bond that young. And Elias stands up and says that he's witnessed the bond firsthand. Lyndon still tries to play the family card, but the council refuses to separate bonded mates. So they watch the rest of the afternoon, and then Remy comes to get Sky, and back at the cabin, they decide to all go for a run as a group. And they run for like 2 hours, and then when they get ready to go back, Sky gets a scent, because of the wind, gets a scent of Preston's wolf. He's not far away. And when she smells it, she has this flashback, this memory of trying to shift for a pack run in Long Mesa, and she couldn't shift because they were all psychos. And Preston bit her to get her to shift. And Remy takes off. And Gabe and Nero and the rest of the pack that's with them all go after him. Remy bares his teeth at Gabe, which is basically like a challenge. He's challenging his alpha, which is, you don't do that. Because, you'll see, okay. When they get back to the cabin, Remy grabs Sky's leg and is checking it. He saw her memory. So this is a new development in the bond. Because before, like, they could kind of hear each other's thoughts or whatever and talk to each other through the bond. But now, Remy can actually see her thoughts. He said it was like he was having that memory. It was like he was experiencing what she experienced. Gabe shows up and he is mad. He is mad. He's big mad, okay? Remy asks him about seeing memories, and Gabe's like, no, it's not possible. Sky's like, I think we need to talk to Elias. So they call Elias over, and Elias is, of course, like, fascinated. Remy tells him and was like, it was like I was seeing my own memory. It was like it was happening to me. And Elias suggests, he's like, why don't you guys try shifting and projecting some more memories? Let's see what else happens. And Gabe's like, no, we're not doing that right now. So everybody leaves, and then Gabe is talking to Remy about challenging him, and Sky tries to diffuse the situation. She's like, it's not his fault. Like, he was trying to protect me. And Gabe's like, it doesn't matter. Like, if that would have been anybody other than our friends, you would have had to fight me. So Gabe leaves to go for dinner, but still tells Remy he loves him because Gabe is amazing too. Hey, Gabe. Remy says it back. Sky tries to basically get away from Remy, but he ain't having it. He's like, no, we can talk about it here, or we can talk about it upstairs, but we talking about it. Which I love because he doesn't let her get away from that, you know, from what needs to happen, basically. So they go upstairs and she tells him that she's embarrassed, which who wouldn't be? He's like, you have nothing to be embarrassed about. Remy's like, I want to kill him. I want to kill all of them. And I wrote, same, Remy. Same. Because, yes. If Danny shows up with Drogon, I would not be mad. So but then we wouldn't have a book. You know what I'm saying? Like, you kind of got to have an enemy. So the next day, Sky is in the cabin alone, and she FaceTimes Larkin and Katie and tells them what happened. And this is a quote from Katie. Don't let a memory trick you into forgetting who you are or how far you've come. And I love that. Like, yes, Katie. Katie's so strong. Tate texts her and says they're going to a club, and Katie has to help Sky figure out what to wear because Sky's fashion challenged. They get to the club, which is owned by a lone wolf named Case that Remy and everybody's friends with. Nero and Allie are there. So Nero is another alpha of a different pack that's allies with Gabe and Luke. Allie is his mate, and they're pregnant, but they're not bonded. So she gets Sky and Tate to go dance with her, but then they dance a little too long and she gets feeling sick. So they take her to the bathroom, and Allie's like, somebody's got to get Nero because we got to go home. So Sky goes to get Nero. And on the way, she runs into Preston. And I wrote a very bad word in my notebook. Preston grabs her, puts his hand over her mouth, drags her outside. Sky uses a move that Remy taught her to get loose. And then Preston tells her that if she'll rescind her claim, that maybe her uncle will be lenient and not kill the Blackwater Pack and then drag them back to Long Mesa. Preston tells her that he loved when Bella cried, but she broke too fast. Yeah, psycho. So he's like taunting her. She punches him in the face. Good girl, Bella. And he goes to her, but then Daniel steps in. Then the rest of the Scooby gang shows up. When they all get back, everybody else heads in. And Remy asks Sky to shift and show him what happened. So she does. And then he shows her his memory of how scared he was when he realized that she was gone. The next day is Sky's 18th birthday and the day she testifies. Oh, God. This is like, oh my God. This was the point. This isn't even the bad one. This is just the first one because she has to do it twice. But this is the point where I had to I think I had put the book, I had to put the book down and just stop and go in the kitchen and drink some water because I was so worried about her testifying, because there is nothing scarier than basically bearing your soul, bearing the worst, most embarrassing things that ever happened to you to complete strangers that you've never met in front of your abuser, okay? So Gabe tells her that even if the council finds with Lyndon, they will still get her out and keep her safe. Like, no matter what, they're gonna do whatever they have to do, fly them wherever they have to fly them, and keep them safe. So Gabe and Remy walk Sky to testify, but they can't go in with her. Yeah, so she's by herself with Lyndon and some council members. So Lyndon is baiting Sky, trying to get her to, act like a teenage girl and basically support his claims. And he is just lying. Even though they both swear to tell the truth, he's completely lying. And just the audacity of the stuff he says, and the council is just eating it up. And I'm just freaking out, scared to death. Then they start asking about a mark of claiming, and Sky doesn't know, and neither did I. And I'm like, what the crap is this mark? What is going on? And then they all basically look at her like she's a stupid little girl. And now, because she doesn't have a mark, Lyndon says they're not really mates. That in order for them to be considered mates by pack law, there has to be a claiming mark, and she don't have a claiming mark. And I wrote, and holy blank, I need to step away and keep reading at the same time. No, I'm getting water because sheesh. So I think I stepped away and got more water. The council lets her go back to Gabe and Remy. They offer to let her stay in a separate room in the lodge with like a council enforcer to guard her against Remy and Gabe. So Sky's freaking out because why didn't Remy tell her? I mean, she's mad and she lays into Remy. And Daniel and Tate, well, okay, she lays in Remy when she gets back. But when she gets out of the room, Remy's not there because he was in meetings too. So Daniel and Tate are there when she gets out and she's freaking and they take her outside. And they're talking to her. And Daniel tells her that according to council and pack law, that if Remy and Sky are not mates because it's not been consummated. And he's like, shifter law or human law, a marriage isn't binding unless it's been consummated. So Sky heads for the cabin with Daniel and Tate in tow and runs into Trace. Yes. So, who starts up with the whole Remy's not really your mate thing. And then says he's been to Long Mesa and sampled the amenities. Gross. Sky starts to go for him, but Daniel catches her and is like, you know, it takes both of him and Tate to calm her down. But he's like, you know, there's people. Tate's like, there's people around here. Don't hit Trace. Trace is going to be an alpha. So back at the cabin, Daniel stays out front to guard her until Remy and Gabe come home. And then Gabe, like, I guess he sees the look on Sky's face and immediately heads right back out the door because he's like, yeah, no, I'm not. Nope. I know better. So Gabe goes outside so Remy and Sky can talk. And Gabe tells her that no matter what, they love her. And Remy explains the mark. And that it's where they bite each other during consummation. And it's a way to let the wolf world know that they're claimed. That's why it's called a claimant mark. So she lets him hold it. That the first time she hears about this claimant mark is from her freaking creepy uncle. Yeah. Remy is ashamed and says, you know, he should have told her, which he should have, or her mama, or somebody, anybody along the way could have said something. Sky's pissed and goes off, and Remy tells her to sit down, and she's like, no, and she goes to leave, and Remy gets all alpha. He doesn't give her an alpha command, but he's just, you know, being an alpha. And Sky sits down, so does Remy, and he tells her, oh, y'all. He tells her that he never wanted her to feel trapped by the bond, that after everything she went through, he wanted her to have a choice. Aww. And this is a quote from Remy. That's why I always stopped us from going further. I wanted to protect you, Sky. I never wanted you to feel trapped in another situation out of your control. I'm sorry. Remy. She tells him that he's always telling her, you know, that she has to talk to him, no more running, and be honest. And, you know, that she needs to know all her options, but he didn't give her all her options because he kept information from her. And Remy tells her that she can leave, that it's her choice, but that he hopes that she chooses him. And she goes for the door, and I literally wrote, no, Sky, because she goes for the door, but she doesn't turn the knob. She tells him no more secrets, and he grabs her. And Remy says, it's you and me forever. And she says, prove it. And then takes her shirt off. And I was like, yes! Finally. I wrote, okay then, Sky. She says she wants to be his in every way. This is a quote from Sky. I choose you, Remy. Now, today, now, yesterday, tomorrow, and every single day I'm alive. I choose you. So, they start downstairs, and he carries her upstairs and kicks the door shut. And then Remy get right on his knees and worship Sky with his mouth. And then, in the heat of the moment, they bite each other, and that's the claiming mark. And they stay in the bed for 18 hours. And and the next day, he has to go to a meeting. Sky and Tate head to the main building for the afternoon session. Remy comes and kisses her. Lyndon walks up. Sky and Remy kind of tell him off, you know. Then at the meeting, Linda speaks for Alpha Damien from Norwood, saying that Brooks Ridge Pack Luke stole Tatum. And I wrote, oh, crap. Damien, the Norwood Alpha, walks in with Tate's parents. Chairman Vincent orders Luke placed in the cell because as soon as Luke sees her parents, he goes for them. He actually picks her dad up by the neck because he is livid. So they put Luke in the cells. Then her parents ask for custody of Tate, and she's like, no, I'm not going with you. You tried to sell me. Dante says no, and then Vincent orders Dante thrown in the cells. So the guys are all holding Dante to keep him from going after the parents. Sky goes running up to give Tate her purse. Lyndon tells her, well, you can visit your friend if you come alone. That they're going to introduce Tate to Trace. So back at the cabin, they're like planning, and Gabe is trying to see about getting some witnesses. And Sky offers to go see Tate, and Remy is like, can we talk about this outside? He's like, no. And Daniel, I love Daniel. Daniel is like snarky pants, and it's hilarious because he's like the friggin' comic relief. He goes, think he's mad? He's probably mad. So Remy and Sky talk, and he agrees to the plan if she calls him on speakerphone, and so that way he can hear if she's in trouble, and she has to take Daniel with her. So she goes to the Norwood cabin with Daniel. Trace is waiting outside. He makes Daniel wait outside. So Trace is like talking junk, but Sky's like, oh, I guess I need to wait and come back when the people who can actually make decisions are here. And that kind of goads him into taking her to the door and showing her where Tate is. So while she's at the door talking to Tate, Daniel comes in and starts knocking stuff over downstairs. So Trace has to go downstairs to deal with Daniel. Then Sky hears a noise down the hallway and goes, and it's Tate's parents saying that they need the money and they'll just sell her again if they make her take her. And so she gets back just as Trace is coming up the stairs and tells her she needs to leave. So when she gets outside, Remy's on the phone. He tells her that they heard everything, that they recorded it, that they're going to the council. So Luke gets released. Tate gets released, and it's just this really nice reunion. Gabe and Remy rent out one of the restaurants in the lodge to have a birthday party for Sky. So they go to the birthday party, and while they're there, they come to find out that Nero and Allie have bonded. So then Gabe tells Sky that, you know, she and Remy are recognized as mates, and then after the party, there's more steamy times with Remy and Sky. Yep. And then Larkin calls in the morning and tells her that her and Rhodes bonded. And I wrote, yay, Hercules. Then Gabe is calling for them downstairs and tells them that on the pack run last night they had 12 pairs bond in Washington. So Elias comes over, and Tate and Dante come over, and they tell them that the mates are bonding at the summit too. And Elias thinks it's because of Sky and Remy, and he wants to study Sky and Remy. And Remy says no, Sky says no, and Gabe says no, and Elias says they're making a mistake. So then, at the council session, Gabe and, okay, this is where she has to like tell like everything, okay? It's Gabe, Remy, Lyndon, Preston, Elias, and Daniel are all present, along with all the members of the council. So there's a screen that plays the video accounts of Addie, Zara, and Bella. Then Sky has to give her account. She's basically like compartmentalizing, talking like it happened to somebody else, so she doesn't like lose it because, so at first Vincent's kind of unconvinced. Like he just kind of, I think he thinks she's just a young girl that kind of misconstrued things or something. But then she starts to tell it. And the council decides that they're not going to make them return to Long Mesa, that they're going to send delegates to investigate Long Mesa. And so back at the cabin, Gabe talks to Sky, tells her that she doesn't have to hide any part of herself, that she's bonded for a reason, and to let Remy help her carry the darkness. Aww. So she goes upstairs, and so does Remy, and he holds her while she cries, and they kind of fall asleep like that. The next day, Remy leaves for a meeting, and Sky calls her mom, and she notices her mom rubbing a scar on her neck in the same spot that Sky has one. So Sky asks if her mom was bonded, and her mom's like, yeah. And she asks, you know, to who? Was it my dad? And she says yes. And she's like, well, tell me what happened. And her mom is just like hemming and hawing and won't tell her. And she gets mad and hangs up on her mom. And y'all, you should never do that, because you don't ever know when a moment is going to be your last moment. So there's a knock on the door. She hangs up on her mom. It's Daniel. He asks if Remy or Gabe is around. And she's like, no, they're in meetings. And he's like, okay, I have to find them, like, right now. Like, she can tell something's wrong. And when he turns to leave, she grabs his wrist. And when she does, he drops the file folder he was holding. And out comes a whole bunch of pictures of Sky and Remy. Yes. And so she accuses him of spying, but he's like, we need to go. We need to find Remy and Gabe right now. He tells her that he found that file in Elias's stuff. Yes. Y'all, freaking Elias. Elias that I thought was the sweet, kindly old man that was trying to help Sky with everything is actually like a freaking creeper. So he tells her that Elias told him to call himself Daniel and that his real name is Dimitri. And so he tells her that Elias is from the Norwood Pack. They're heading for the main building. They're like going to find Gabe and Remy when Tate comes around the corner. And literally, as soon as they find Tate and start to head towards the lodge, the freaking lodge explodes. Sky is knocked out. She wakes up on an airplane. Yes, Daniel gives her something to drink, and she cannot feel her wolf. And he tells her there's like a bracelet on her wrist, and apparently it's some kind of magic bracelet that keeps her wolf from surfacing. And he tells her that they're on a plane over the Pacific. They are on their way to Russia. That the explosion took out most of the North American alphas, if not all the North American alphas, and that he's taken her to Russia on the orders of his alpha. And she's like, who is your alpha? And he says, your father. Yes, his real name is Dmitry Dashkov, and her father's name is Nikolai Dashkov. And I wrote some bad words in my notebook. And that's where the book ends. So then we get the epilogue, which is from Remy's point of view. So Hannah has already said, and you can tell because the characters are separated, that Legacy is going to be dual POV. So it's going to switch between Remy and Sky's point of view. So in the epilogue, Remy and Dante are digging through the rubble, trying to find survivors. He finds Gabe and Luke. I think Luke's alive. Like, I think the both of them are alive. It doesn't really say he's dead. Like, I hope my husband's not dead, because I would be upset. So, on his way out, because he's like, we got to get them out now before the cops show up, Preston grabs his leg. Because Preston's in the rubble. He's been, like, skewered by some rebar. And he's like, dude, you have to help me. Please, please help me. And he's like crying. And so Remy pulls the rebar out of his stomach. And he's like, oh, thank you. And then Remy shoves the rebar through Preston's throat and kills him. And I'm like, because I can't say the other word. And that's the epilogue. Yes. Honey. Vengeful Remy is hot AF, okay? So then we get the bonus scene, and the bonus scene, I was so happy about this because I wanted this. It's Rose and Larkin on a pack run, and they sneak off to like this beautiful meadow that's got a bunch of flowers, and Rose had went out ahead of time and stashed her camera because he knows she likes this meadow so that she could take some pictures. And she does, and gets some pics of Rhodes in his wolf form, and then she shifts for them to go back, and they bond. Yay! That's what I wanted. I wanted Larkin and Rhodes bonding, and I wanted to be able to read it. So thank you, Hannah, because that was amazing. So that is it. This is like my longest video ever. But hello, Like, look at this book. It's thick. There's a lot going on. But that's Pray. I loved it. If you haven't read it, please read the Sanctum series because it's amazing. And when the next one comes out, we'll be talking about that one too. Thanks, you guys. Till next time.